5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Here is End Time Newsman Rick Wiles.
Is an ultra-modern television studio being built, and the Lord is making room.
Amen.
You couldn't stop this show from going on television now. This thing's on a fast track. Because he told me in 1999, I will give you a national audience on television just before the judgment strikes America. And for years I tried to get this TV show going and I couldn't. And I finally came to realize it's God who's holding it back. And I've told friends, the last thing you want to see is me on television.
Because that means judgment's on the way.
That's right. What's happening right now? We have a television studio being built right now. We have some of the best TV production people in the country in Christian television who have joined our staff. This program is going to launch this summer. Why? We're on the verge of judgment. And so people are mad at me right now for saying that Donald Trump sold out. I'm sorry if you're mad. My job is to tell you the truth. I told the truth about Bill Clinton. I told the truth about George W. Bush. I told the truth about Barack Obama. And I'm going to tell the truth about Donald Trump. He has disappointed me.
Would you also say that this is the truth, that if Hillary Clinton had won, we would probably have already been in a war in December?
Absolutely.
The only thing that's happened is it's been delayed.
The game plan was to attack and invade Syria. Do I need to remind you that last September, October, the Russians were doing massive civil defense drills, 40 million Russians going into underground bunkers preparing for nuclear war. They openly said, if Hillary Clinton wins, we will have war. And so we prayed, we fasted, we pleaded with the Lord, give us a reprieve, Father, don't let this happen to us. God responded and he gave us a reprieve. And I said on this program, we have a reprieve, but we have to enforce it.
Right.
And isn't part of enforcing that just being critical? And that's what we're doing here. We're criticizing, we're being critical of something that clearly does not make sense and is not something that we voted for or prayed for.
Donald Trump said he was going to join with the Russians to fight ISIS. When Vice Presidential candidate Mike Pence made comments that were critical of Russia during the campaign, in which he was implying that the Russians were guilty of crimes in Syria, the next day, Donald Trump rebuked him. And I was encouraged. I said, good, he's not going to allow this propaganda to take hold of him.
Well, remember during the debates when Donald Trump directly confronted Hillary Clinton in the debates about Syria, that if it was up to you, we'd be at war. I mean, he directly confronted her.
That's right. So what happened in the past week?
Gentlemen, one caveat. The deep state got to Trump telling him our entire existence and dollar dominance and our financial wealth came through the creation of the petrodollar that Saudi Arabia controls OPEC on. And they told him the Russians have been undermining it for years. And if we don't get the land mass of Syria in order to run the pipelines from Qatar up and over, our dollar is done. And if you go in and study that out, you'll realize deep state got Trump and said, if we don't get Syria, our dollar's going down because they're already positioning Asia Infrastructure Investment Bank and beyond. So they're ready. And I think that woke him up because he doesn't want to be the one with the dollar collapsing.
Well, according to the Express newspaper in London, it was his daughter Ivanka Trump Kushner who whispered in his ear, "Daddy, bomb Syria." So perhaps the bankers couldn't convince him and the generals couldn't convince him, but his daughter Ivanka was able to get to him and convince him to bomb Syria.
Well, remember in the press conference with the King of Jordan, where President Trump spoke about the gas attack, and he talked about, I saw those children, I saw those beautiful babies, and that phrase, beautiful babies, kind of just jumped out at me, and didn't sound like a Donald Trump phrase. And then when this story from the UK papers broke, all of a sudden it made sense. That those words, those beautiful babies, those words came from Ivanka.
That's right. They used her to persuade him. And we're now learning that Ivanka Trump and her husband, Jared Kushner, have far more power in the White House than we ever imagined, certainly wanted to believe. It was not a good day when Kushner was given a position and then Ivanka was given an official position. And now they're taking over. and they're surrounding the president with Goldman Sachs bankers. The person who's replacing KT McFarland is a Goldman Sachs banker. We're going to see Gary Cohen come in to a position, perhaps chief of staff. You're going to see all these Goldman Sachs bankers running the White House again. We were told he's going to drain the swamp. Now he's swimming side by side with cunning, treacherous crocodiles. And I'm not going along with it. Let me tell you, I left the Republican Party today. I said, this is enough. I'm done with this. It's not that big of a deal. Leaving the Republican Party is not going to change the course of this nation right now, but it was my way of registering my protest. I'm fed up with it. I'm tired of it. I'm not playing this game with the Republican Party anymore. I'm not going to be a little pawn for House Speaker Paul Rhino and John McCain and the rest of those freaks who are moving us into World War III. I'm not going to stand by and be quiet while little Ivanka Trump whispers, "Daddy, start a war. Start a war, Daddy." No, I'm not going to be quiet. World War III will be horrific. We could lose 1 billion people. And I don't know why people are so blasé about World War III.
They're afraid to confront it. They're afraid to confront what the action right there did is it made everyone in the Republican Party who doesn't want to do what you did today a culpable apologist for those policies.
Well, there's no blood on my hands. God, look, my hands are clean. No blood on my hands. America's going to get a war. America's going to get the war it's begging for, but it's not going to turn out the way they think.
Why are they begging for it? Because they know our dollar has been stretched beyond the limit of a typical fiat currency, and they need somebody to blame as that goes down. That war gets the distraction. Look at history, how they've done it based on finances.
Why Syria?
Landmass is for the pipeline system coming out of Qatar. Qatar's third largest gas supply in the world. They were undermining Russia, who is the predominant supplier of energy to Europe. Without Russian energy, Europe doesn't survive, and Germany, 40% dependence on Russia. They were using Qatar to put the pipeline system up. They needed Syria's landmass to then come across. Russia knew this, and Russia was undermining America's petrodollar dominance in the region, and they succeeded under Obama. But Syrian landmass must be had by the West in order to get the pipelines up from Qatar to undermine Russia's need, yes, for European energy.
Who's behind the pipelines?
Oh, us in the West. Israel is right there too, by the way. And the Saudis control Saudis control OPEC. They're head of. Saudis control us. We're their poodle. If they say tomorrow no more dollars are needed to buy oil, every country in the world doesn't need a dollar anymore, our economy collapses overnight because demand for dollar just disappears.
And the Secretary of State, Rex Tillerson, was CEO of ExxonMobil. Do you think he has some knowledge about pipelines?
And you can only imagine the agreements we have with Qatar. We'll give you all of Europe. You become a gazillionaire. Here's what we want in return. And if you look at who was cozying up with Qatar, Clinton's, look at who's doing it. And if I have a map, we did this on Wealth Transfer, the maps of the pipelines. But they need Syrian landmass in order to achieve it. And Russia knows if they give it up, their economy collapses because they will no longer be able to supply energy to Europe because Qatar will.